From the 32nd floor of his Victoria Island penthouse, Oba Fashola could see everything. Ikoyi Atlantic's towers, the rippling sea, the blinking lights of a city that bowed at his name. At 29, he ran a tech real estate empire and sat on panels with governors. Lagos called him the digital lion. But tonight, he sat barefoot on a marble floor, wine untouched, staring at the city like it was a stranger. His phone buzzed with headlines and congratulatory messages. Oba ignored them. He had just watched his fiancée, Tinyola, the governor's daughter, kiss his accountant on the very couch where they once planned their honeymoon. They hadn't noticed the CCTV was still running. Oba didn't scream, didn't throw a glass. He simply stood up, packed nothing but a cap and a folded hoodie, and called Amaka, his longtime assistant. "I want to disappear," he said. She thought he was joking. "No cars, no money, just slippers and silence," he added. "Set it up." By morning, the tabloids were guessing his location. Some said South Africa, others Seychelles. Only Amaka knew he had checked into a one-room apartment behind a mechanic shop in Mushin. No AC, no Wi-Fi, just ceiling stains and mosquitoes. He began washing danfos in Oshodi, fetching water for pepper sellers, sweeping kiosks before dawn. At night, he sat by a flickering bulb, listening to bus horns and crickets, breathing peace he hadn't known in years. Each day, Lagos forgot a little more who Oba Fashola was. And that was exactly what he needed. Oshodi moved like it had something to prove, horns blaring, traders shouting, Okaders weaving through chaos like dancers in a war zone. And in the middle of it all was Shola, once Oba Fashola, now in faded joggers, bathroom slippers, and a hoodie stained with engine grease. Nobody recognized him. He washed buses before sunrise and swept market stalls by 6 a.m. At first, the blisters on his palms stung more than the shame. But soon, the rhythm of labor began to soothe something deeper. For the first time in his life, he was invisible, and it felt like freedom. He lived in a cramped face-me-I-face-you in Mushin, sharing a toilet with 9 others. Children played football with tied-up nylon bags. The smell of fried akara mixed with kerosene smoke. Every night, he fell asleep to generators humming and gospel music bleeding through the walls. But beneath the grime and dust, something steady grew in him. Resolve. Amaka, ever loyal, had set up a secret matchmaking profile. No pictures, just a message. He once had everything. Now he has nothing. If you still want to meet, come. 3 women did. Shalewa, an Instagram influencer from Lekki, arrived with her ring light and a phone ready to go live. "Let's make content," she giggled, filming his slippers like a joke. She left before the Suya arrived. Tolani, an HR manager, brought a questionnaire. "Do you have a 5-year recovery plan?" she asked between bites of small chops. Bimbo smiled sweetly. "Until 6 a.m. My cousin needs school fees. Just 30,000 Nigerian nairas, please." Oba, no, Shola, didn't flinch. He wasn't looking for perfection. Just real. And so far, Lagos was showing him just how rare that was. By week 3, Shola went deeper. No more clean joggers. No more daily baths. His beard grew wild. Hoodie clung to him like a second skin. He let go of what was left of the man he used to be, not just in appearance, but in posture. He walked slower, head down, voice gone, and no one noticed. In Lagos, being poor wasn't just hard, it was invisible. He spent his days around Age Pedestrian Bridge, hunched beneath zinc shades or curled near roasted corn stalls. Some days he'd sweep for change. Other days, he simply sat there, silent, motionless. People passed like he was scenery. A few dropped coins. 1 or 2 offered half-finished food. But most? Laughter. Judgment. One man filmed him on Snapchat. See this one. Maybe an A-failed Yahoo boy. None knew that inside the torn lining of his hoodie was a folded check worth 10 million Nigerian nairas, signed and ready to be given, to the first person who treated him like a human being without knowing who he really was. He waited and watched. One woman said, "Go get work, Joa." Another dropped 10 Nigerian nairas and immediately asked, "You get phone to snap receipt?" He smiled once that day. Bitterly. At night, he'd return to Mushin, fingers raw from pushing wheelbarrows at mile 2. Still, he felt lighter than he ever had on any first-class flight. He whispered once to himself under the rusted ceiling fan, "I used to own towers. Now I count ceiling cracks." But for the first time, he felt something wholly stirring. Not anger, not regret, just readiness. The city was stripping him, layer by layer, until only the core remained. And that, he knew, was where the real test would begin. The rain came suddenly, one of those Lagos storms that turn gutters into rivers and rooftops into drums. Shola huddled beneath the aged pedestrian bridge, drenched, shivering, forgotten. People rushed past, umbrellas tilted, trousers rolled, no one stopping. Then she did. She wore a faded Ankara dress, soaked to the knees, and carried a nylon-wrapped food flask. Her face wasn't extraordinary until she looked at him. Then it was everything. "You go catch fever like this," she said. Before he could answer, she opened her flask, 2 slices of bread, 1 spoon of beans, and a sachet of water. She placed it beside him. "No worry. I get another one at home." Shola stared. No camera. No Instagram Live. No God bless you, so. Just kindness. Then she did something no one had done in weeks. She asked his name. He paused, then said softly, "Shola." "I'm Morayo," she replied. "ISO, and I teach small children too. My kiosk day just before Lesamaja Junction." She untied her scarf and gently draped it over his shoulders. "Come by if this rain soaks you tomorrow." And just like that, she was gone, lost in the blur of Lagos thunder and pepper soup smoke. Shola didn't move for a while. He sat with the bread untouched, the scarf wrapped like memory. The check in his hoodie stayed hidden. This was not the moment. But maybe, just maybe, she was the reason he had come this far. Not for pity, not even for love, but to finally be seen. The next day, Shola found himself outside Morayo's tailoring kiosk, unsure why his feet had led him there. It was nothing fancy, corrugated roofing, rusted signage that read "Mo Stitches," and a wooden bench crowded with fabrics. But it was alive. Girls in school uniforms popped in to greet her. A transistor radio played Wazobia FM softly, and Morayo, in a clean apron and scarf, moved like joy in human form. "You came," she smiled. "Good. I need help with my coal iron." He stayed all day, sweeping, threading needles, carrying fabric to the nearby school where she taught after lunch. At first, he fumbled everything. He stitched a sleeve to a waistband once. Morayo laughed until she snorted. That laugh did something to him, stripped away the ache. She never asked about his past, never once questioned why he looked like someone who'd lost everything. She just let him be. She called him Shola with no suspicion, no performance. As if that name, small, quiet, borrowed, was enough. Days turned into a rhythm. She taught him to ham. He taught her how to draft invoices. She shared puff-puff. He fixed her flickering lantern. The check in his hoodie remained untouched, growing more symbolic than practical. One evening, as the sun melted behind the Lesamaja rooftops, she surprised him. "My cousin's wedding is in Ikoyi due this weekend. You know how my family is, noisy, judgmental." She hesitated. "Would you come with me?" Shola blinked. "As what?" She smiled shyly. "My fiancé. Just pretend." He didn't speak for a moment. Then, "Okay, but I'm terrible at lying." Morayo laughed again, softer this time. "Don't worry. Just be you." But Shola wasn't sure who he was anymore. All he knew was, under the layers of dust and thread and silence, he wanted to be his. The wedding in Ikoyi was loud, colorful, and merciless. Drums pounded. Aunties danced in matching lace. Plates clattered with jollof, amala, and insults served with side eyes. Shola, dressed in borrowed native wear 2 sizes too big, sat beside Morayo like a stone in the wrong garden. Whispers circled the hall. "Who's that one in rubber slippers?" "I heard he sells Zobo and Mushin." Morayo said fiancé or flatmate. Shola kept his eyes on his food, chewing slowly, calmly. He was used to being unseen. Being mocked was just the next level of invisibility. Then came Tunji, Morayo's ex. He wore designer Agbada like a costume, gold chain thick as ego. Morayo, he said with a smirk, you always like stray projects. She smiled coolly. At least mine don't come with bounce checks. Tunji's laugh faltered. But this one, no car, no job, no pedigree. Shola stood, not in anger, but quiet resolve. You're right. I'm not your type. Exactly. Tunji spat. You're not anyone's type. But before Shola could speak again, Morayo stepped forward. Enough! Her voice cut through the music like a blade. This man may not own a house in Lekki, but he shows up. He listens. He treats people like they matter. She looked around. Some of you have mirrors, but no soul. He may not have wealth, but he has a heart. Silence fell. Even the DJ paused the music. Shola stared at her, something tight cracking open inside. Not because she defended him, but because for the first time, he didn't feel like a test anymore. He felt real. 3 days after the wedding, Shola folded his hoodie for the last time. Morayo's words still echoed in his chest. Not just a defense, but the belief. She had no idea who he was, yet stood in front of a crowd and chose him. He had never felt so exposed. Also seen. That night, he called a marker. It's time. By morning, Mushin awoke to headlights, sleek, black G-wagons rolling slowly down the narrow street. Market women stared. Danfo drivers honked in disbelief. The same man who carried blocks last week now stepped out in white agbada, embroidered with quiet power. Oba Fashola had returned. He walked through the crowd, face calm, eyes searching. Morayo stood frozen outside her kiosk, scissors in hand, breath caught in her throat. You lied, she whispered. I hid, he said softly, to find someone who wouldn't love the suit more than the soul. He reached into his pocket and unfolded a tiny, grease-stained check, the one he had carried since Oshodi. 10 million Nigerian nairas. This was meant for whoever saw me when I was invisible. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then, without theatrics, Oba knelt. Morayo Akinimi, I came here with dust on my feet. You cleaned my soul. Marry me. Her eyes welled. This is madness. He smiled. Maybe, but it's the truest thing I've ever done. She nodded once, too stunned to speak. Somewhere, a phone camera flashed. Then another. By evening, the story had gone viral. Hash Ogo in slippers. Hash from thread to throne. Hash under the dusty crown. But Oba didn't care about the trend. He only cared that, for the first time in his life, he was chosen for who he was beneath the name. The next morning, Morayo was gone. No letter, no explanation. Her kiosk was locked, her phone off. The scarf she once wrapped around shoulders fluttered from a nail by the window. Oba searched, quietly, desperately. He tried not to panic, but his mother's words echoed in his head. She will ruin your name. She hadn't ruined anything. She had made it worth carrying. 2 months passed. Then, during a foundation visit to a village clinic in Ibadan, Oba's convoy stopped at a local school. Laughter echoed from the dusty playground. There, under a mango tree, teaching kids how to write their names, stood Morayo, barefoot, radiant, visibly pregnant. Time slowed. She looked up, saw him, froze. The chalk dropped from her hand. I thought I'd protect your legacy, she whispered later, eyes glassy. I didn't want your empire to become gossip. Oba held her hands. I don't care about empire. I care about home. And you are it. Behind them, his mother stood watching. Chief Mrs. Temitope Fashola had come quietly, not with earrings or scorn, but with a softened gaze. She stepped forward and placed Morayo's scarf gently back around her shoulders. If you could raise a man like my son, she said, you will raise a kingdom. Months later, in a garden behind Oba's childhood home in Ikoyi, Wednesday, no governors, no influencers, just seamstresses, market women, Danfo drivers, and a few men in suits who finally understood what wealth really meant. Morayo wore a gown she stitched herself. Oba wore slippers carved with gold thread, one last nod to the road that brought him back. Together, they founded the Akinimi Tailoring Academy, training women from underserved communities across Lagos. And every time Oba spoke at events, he began the same way. I once built towers, But the real foundation of my life began the day someone saw me under the dust, and still stayed.